Welcome to So What's It Actually About? I'm your host, Margie Mchechny, and I, along with my wide array of guests, hope to help you better understand and weather the wonderful world of actuarial science. Hello everyone, and welcome to today's episode. Today we are joined by Junho. Thank you for joining us, Junho.
Hello.
Standard question. Tell me about your background. Tell me about where you come from, why XI. Go for it.
Should I go into my whole background?
Do it. Whatever you want to share.
Okay, so I am originally from South Korea.
Yeah.
And I was raised in Cape Town.
You're still yet to make me a Korean dish.
Yes.
Just saying.
I will do that in due time. I did my undergrad in business science, actuarial science, specializing in quantitative finance. Mm-hmm. Finished in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Last year.
And right now I'm pursuing a master's degree in risk management.
Okay. So there's quite a lot of things we can talk to there. So let's start with the why actuarial science. Mm-hmm. Kind of speak to that, and let's move from there.
So it's a funny story. So one of my best friends from high school had a sister that was in actuarial science.
Okay. So
her name was Alexis Silos. I think she's the class of 2018.
Okay. So shout out to her.
Yeah, I'm shouting to her. She's already qualified.
Hey.
Shout out to her. So basically she was someone that was like performing well in school. She was good at everything, and I think I looked up to her quite a bit. And then I heard from Theodore, that's the brother's name, my best.
That's a great name.
Yeah, Theodore, Ted. So Ted told me, he's like, my sister's doing actuarial science. She's struggling. It's a big challenge.
Yeah.
And I was like, I like that.
Sign me up.
Yeah, sign me up. I didn't know what actuarial science was about.
I think it's very seldom that students really do have it first year.
I didn't even look into the industry.
Oh, hectic. You were just like, let's go.
I knew I wanted to do business science.
Okay.
Something in business science. Well, fun stuff. Another tangent.
Let's do it.
I wanted to do music.
Really? Okay.
Well, one thing that sold me to this degree was that people were telling me that actuaries and actuarial science graduates earn a lot.
Okay.
And I guess it is one of the things.
I mean, it's a draw card. It's definitely a draw card.
Definitely. They are in it for the money. In it for the dough. But other than that, I think the biggest motivator for me was the fact that it was a challenge.
Yeah.
I knew that
I
don't know, it's a toxic trait of mine.
I also have it, so, take someone to know one. Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you there.
No, it's okay. That kind of led me on to do actuarial science. Didn't do much research, just applied for it. My parents didn't know what actuarial science was.
Oh, hectic.
Yeah, and actually, Theodore's parents, Alexis' parents, told my parents.
Well, as Theodore's.
Yeah, and they told me not to do it.
Genuine, because of what she had experienced.
Yeah, because of what they saw her go through.
Deep it.
Which was, well, I didn't know at the time. Long couple of years in my chest. And then, that was kind of...
So let's speak to that. So obviously you chose actuarial science, got into actuarial science. You hadn't done any research as to what it was. So obviously it was different to what you expected because you actually didn't know what you expected. But just speak to what was your experience in your undergrad? Like how did you kind of get through all those subjects? Were some of them really difficult? Where did you struggle in particular? And also how did you overcome some of those struggles? Big question, but kind of speak to all of those facets.
A lot of questions. I mean, I enjoyed a lot of the technical courses.
Okay, so like your stats.
Stats and mathematics. I mean, I was never best at maths growing up. I was good at it, but I wasn't the top 5 students or winning Olympiads. I mean, I see so many students that I studied with that were top of their grade for maths.
Yeah.
And getting 100% for maths. I was never like that. I was like, high 80s to 90s student. So I think it was one of those things that I acquired to enjoy through practice, because I knew that I would struggle more than most other people in the degree. So I spent more time doing stats and maths.
Okay, so you preemptively did
yes,
that. Okay.
I think so. And it came easier to me later on
Because in that ground,
because
you've
of
done it.
With regards to other courses, I enjoyed accounting.
Okay. That was only first year, though.
First year,
Okay.
yeah. Accounting, economics, definitely, because you kind of get a broader sense of why you're doing this.
Yeah.
And then the course that I enjoyed the most, that I hated the most when I was doing it, but I enjoy the most now, and I'm thankful that I did now sometime.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I mean, a lot of our first years seem to be struggling a bit with that, but I think it's just a different way of thinking, right?
Yeah.
And very few of them have been exposed to that.
It's mostly, I think, people have a fear for it because they think like, oh, you have to know all the coding stuff and you have to know certain things to code. It's not. You just have to have the mind to solve a problem.
Yeah, it's like the logic, right, and the approach.
It's a calculator, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's infinite many ways of solving one singular problem. As long as your logic works and you know how to just operate the computer, then you can solve
It's a tool. Yeah.
It's a tool. It's not supposed to be this fearful thing. It's supposed to aid you in the process of solving a problem.
Yeah, got you. But then tell me, as you developed and as you sort of were making progress with your degree, did you start enjoying it more, getting a better picture of what an actuary does? Or did it just become more difficult, more sort of like, I actually don't know why I'm doing this? What was your experience of that?
I think at UCT, you figure out that you have a very, very vague idea of what an actuary does until your third year. Second year is also very focused on technical subjects, maths and stats stuff.
Very much so.
So you don't really know where this comes in. These things, these tools that we have, where do they go into in the field? You figure it out in third year, and that's when I decided that, maybe it isn't what I was expecting.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was that like a disappointment to you? Or was it just sort of like I need to maybe go back to the drawing board and see what it is that I'm actually interested in?
I don't think it was a disappointment because of the other courses that I've done through this degree.
Okay.
And I was still happy that I'm...
So you don't regret it?
I don't regret it.
Okay.
But I knew that UCT offered the quantitative finance stream.
Yes. Which is not the case at all universities.
Yeah, no.
So you didn't have that versatility.
And I took up finance courses in third year.
Okay.
Enjoyed them a lot.
Okay.
It really clicked with me.
Yeah.
From the get-go. So, yeah, chose it. And I think a lot of the students that are coming in, and I've spoken to a lot of my friends that were coming into actuarial science as well in the beginning. And we have this preconceived notion about actuarial science that it is mostly to do with financial markets.
Yes.
And you're going to be working with stock prices and bonds. But those only come in finicos.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, and you don't really focus on the finance market.
Or like the asset side.
The asset side, you're doing insurance and liability side of
things. Yeah.
So I think I had a realization that I wanted to do something to do with the financial markets.
Okay.
And then that led me to do quantitative finance.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. And I think that's a really useful sort of segue into talking about Quant 5.
Yeah.
So it's actually something I talked to my interest class the other day. So I'm testing, but how would you sort of differentiate what actuaries do with what Quant 5s do, and is there an overlap there or they're complementary? Like, how would you view those two skill sets?
I mean, definitely, it's interchangeable. An actuary can become a quantitative finance analyst, quant analyst. But I think the reverse could be a little bit difficult.
Yeah.
Going from a quant analyst role to an actuarial role can be a little bit challenging at times. But the overlaps are that it is a quantitatively heavy career, both of them. And a lot of them have to deal with a lot of statistical methods, and you also get to price things.
And financial maths, right? So you have to have that core understanding of
financial mathematics, annuities, interest rates.
Cost.
And financial instruments as well. But the different financial instruments that you'll be working on is a little different.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Quant 5 would do it in a lot more detail, the financial instruments, whereas actuarial science definitely touches on it, but not to the degree that you would in Quantify.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, you can specialize in investments within SI, but it still is not as sort of detailed as you would get in given a Quantify sort of specialization.
One thing I've figured out is that a lot of the mainstream actuarial science students only get to touch on options in fourth year.
Yes. What, like the put and the
call option, exotic options, and strategies.
Yeah.
Those come in earlier on in Quantify, third year, Finance 2A and Finance 2B.
So that must have really helped you then a bit when you got to Finicos, right?
Definitely.
In your fourth year, because you had a bit of exposure prior to that.
That section that people struggle with the most is Chapter 14, like strategies are...
Is that like with the Black-Scholes?
Yeah, Black-Scholes comes in Chapter 15 after you've covered the Chapter 12.
But that's fundamental too.
Yes.
Yeah, got you.
And yeah, you've also seen Black-Scholes formulas before.
Okay, so it's kind of like, oh, hi.
Oh, hi.
I haven't seen you in a while.
We need a formula. We never got to try. That's the problem with finance courses. You never get too deep into the subjects. Whereas I think it complemented nicely with Finicos.
I'm sure. Gave you a bit of a deeper understanding of what it was that you actually used as a model.
It's a model,
yeah.
And different techniques that you can learn from it, especially stochastic calculus.
Yes.
I mean, finance doesn't cover stochastic calculus. It's all
yes, which is quite difficult when you're sort of doing Brownian motion, etc. And it has these underpins of the mathematics that you actually haven't necessarily done. So you're kind of like, well,
yeah, they don't. I mean, the straight finance students don't cover MAM 2000 or second year mathematics in other universities, and stochastic calculus itself. We go through that with a course called Stats 3045.
Okay.
Yeah. So we touch on Brownian motion and martingales.
Okay.
Then
is that also like Ito's lemma? That's
Ito's lemma, some Taylor expansion to prove things, and that's
a little bit. I'm getting a little bit of PTSD.
Yeah, but like trivial courses give me PTSD.
That's okay. That's like we need both, right?
Yeah.
It's something I say to my intro students. As I said, actuaries focus on the liabilities, but need to understand that assets and liabilities need to match, right? And then Quantify, you're looking more specifically at the assets, and so it's kind of it's always like just specializations in different spaces. But there's this space, or there's a role for both of them. And so it's an interesting thing to consider, because I think many students have heard of an actuary, but not necessarily a quantitative financial analyst. And many companies are hiring quants, you know. And
it's
so
the new thing now.
Exactly. So it's a very interesting one. And so you then decided you wanted to go into that space, and then so you moved across to Quantify, and did your Quantify fourth year, right? So
Quantify fourth year.
Okay, and how did you find that? A lot more interesting in that it was streamlined to what you were actually wanting to do.
I didn't have any regrets. Firstly, I made a lot of valuable friends from doing quantitative finance.
Okay, as opposed to non-valuable friends.
I mean, don't put me in a spot like that.
Your non-valuable friends don't, isn't
no, they're all that.
Okay.
I had an addition of more that other
Okay.
I made friends through the course, and there are a couple of things with this quantitative finance honors.
Yeah.
So when the mainstream students are struggling a little bit with ARM and a lot of bookwork and theory, we are doing a course called Selected Topics, Quantitative Selected Topics.
Yes.
So it builds on top of Finicos.
Oh, good grief.
So you go into, whereas Finicos will stop at, let's say, if you're pricing an American option, you'd stop at a binomial tree.
Yes.
You only have an upstate and a downstate.
Yes.
And you add a constant state as well. Trinomial.
Oh, okay, which obviously gives additional complexity.
Give it additional complexities, more nodes and branches to think about. There's other asset liability management section as well as
which is really useful, because I think what sometimes students think is that if I become a quant, then I don't look at liabilities at all.
Oh, but that's not true.
But it's just the emphasis is on the assets. And then you get a liability underpin, whereas with an actuary, the emphasis is on the liability with the asset underpin. So it's like a slightly different kind of emphasis.
It's the same branch that has quantitative finance.
It's complementary, right?
And the AXI branch in UCT.
Yeah.
And also, with consulting firms, a lot of the big consulting firms have their quant team alongside the...
I remember when I was in consulting, the quant team sat with